Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast. We're back and we have a special episode for you today. I think everyone's in a cheery mood. So, starting off with the usual introductions, the man who's seen more grounds than my Moroccan coffee filter, you may know him as Trav the Michler or Mike the Traveler. Mike, so happy to have you here today as our font of knowledge. How are you feeling?
Obviously, absolutely ecstatic, still on a high from yesterday. So, yeah, thanks for having us, Mark, and looking forward to reliving yesterday's, particularly the last sort of minute and a half or so of the game.
Brilliant. And we're all here for it as well. And also joined by another Mike, a man who's looking to park his car in Harvard Yard. Brilliant accent. We may not have a green monster, but we have a black and white one. We have Mike of the United States, or Motus as he's well known. How are you, Motus?
I am great. I am great. I'm going to jump ahead really, really quickly. I know one of the most famous chants in Fulham history is the Ream chant. Do we get to edit that for at least today's podcast and just say Reed?
I Why not? We're gonna have to ask our editing genies in Australia to help us out there. But I think that's you did jump ahead. That is a very worthy chant, and we're definitely gonna get to that. But I mean, I was at the game yesterday, and my God, what a roller coaster of emotions. Now let's get straight into it. Just right from the beginning with the lineups. I want to go to you first, Modus. The Fulham lineup. Were you expecting five at the back? Were there some names on there that surprised you? Talk me through what you saw and thought when you first saw the lineup.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I was a little bit surprised. Five at the back is something we've done before. Marco's done before, but when you think about the injuries that we've had and the crisis that we've had and who's available, it started to make more sense, especially giving that extra coverage to Castagna. I think was really, really helpful there. King still being out of the lineup, so we didn't have as many outside or attacking options. I think this definitely played into our strengths. I think everybody was a little surprised that, we all thought Kearney had a great cameo and a great goal off the bench, but to pluck him into the starting lineup off of that was a little bit surprising. Me being a huge Tom Kearney fan, I was delighted to see it. I've been calling for this partnership for a long time with him and Lukic. And I think Marco partially adjusted the system that I think, even though we're out of the holiday season, I'm going to call the Christmas tree for right now, just to make sure that Kearney had that coverage he needed. My biggest concern walking into it was obviously, like everybody else, the bench. I think we had 4 out of our 9 subs are under the age of 20 and can't legally drink in my country. And 2 goalkeepers on the bench was a little bit concerning there. Personally, I was also very concerned by just the right side of seeing Issa Diop and Timothy Castagna apply their trade at the same time. That has mixed results in the past. But overall, I think Marco came in with a strategy, knew we were going to have to absorb a lot of pressure and hit Liverpool on the counter. So it makes a lot of sense upon some reflection.
Yeah, makes sense. And just some additional context. I think when Leeds played Liverpool, they did quite well at five at the back as well. So I'm pretty sure, as the Americans would put it, we watched the tape, we saw the previous highlights and sort of how those teams performed against Liverpool, and we thought maybe there's something we can exploit here. But you're right. I had to look up McNally, and apparently, I don't know why we had 2 goalkeepers on the bench. I guess we just had to make the numbers, or we are really bizarrely worried about injuries. But Liverpool's lineup, some names there missing, some big names as well. Trav, the Michler. Did you have any sort of thoughts on or who worried you in that lineup as well? Because that's another good question. They still have talent. They may have been missing Isaac, Ekatike, a few others, but there's still some names that, at least for me, strike fear. But what about you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a great boost to find out that Ekatike wasn't available before the game because that was sort of unexpected. I think that sounds like the injury that he's got isn't one that's going to keep him out for too long. So were they not playing Arsenal on Thursday, he probably would have played. So I think it was a bit of a stroke of luck for us that the congested fixture list has probably worked in our favour there. But yeah, as you say, they've still got quality players like McAllister, Szoboszlai, who's been excellent this season in what's been a otherwise pretty below par season overall. I like Curtis Jones as a player as well, and I thought he actually had a decent game yesterday as well. And Verts, as much as he's not hit the ground running, we know that there's talent there. So, they they've got a plethora of players who cost more than probably our entire squad. So it's not like they're short of talent. But yeah, it wasn't so much a particular individual that worried me. It was more just the fact that they have depth that, I think the way the game started was kind of evidence of that, as they were moving the ball really sharply and we sort of seemed like we were a little bit off the pace. So it was more the collective that concerned me rather than a particular outstanding individual.
Yeah, very fair point. And I think one of the names you hit on that I really want to touch on briefly, Soboslai terrifies me because I think he is one of the complete packages. He's physical, he's tall, he's skillful, stamina for days. And I think that applies to like a lot of the Liverpool team. Their conditioning seems to be excellent. They were really still up for it, even the very late ends, burning embers of the game, right? And he could hit one from outside the box. I've seen a few of those. And we know that Leno gets a bit dodgy from outside the box, so I was always looking out for that. But yeah, Wirtz was another interesting one. Not really done a whole lot. Yes, he's scored 2 goals now, one very questionable one that we're gonna get to later. But I felt, just going into the game a little bit, I felt like we could have bullied him more. He's a technical guy, right? And I'm sure he's tricky. I'm sure he's supremely skillful, but he is slight. And you see, okay, the two are incomparable, but our technical guy, who's skinny and slight, is Josh King. And what happens when Josh King comes on? He gets bodied, he gets kicked, he gets shoved. I wish I saw a little bit more of that from our side, but what did you guys think? Were we physical enough? Did we pay them too much respect?
We never really are physical enough. I think we're not the most aggressive of teams in terms of either, the like high pressing sides. We tend to settle for quite a mid block often, and even when the ball's in midfield or it goes out wide, I always feel like I'd like to just see a bit more from our players in terms of just sprinting out to people to make life difficult for them. Sometimes we kind of tend to get into a shape and sort of get comfortable in that shape rather than assertively stepping out. And I felt that sometimes, particularly when we play, the top sides who have got, players who are just a bit sharper and a bit quicker, it does take us a good 15 minutes to really get into the game and get a foothold, because we don't seem to get to grips with that quite early enough. But once we sort of ride out that initial wave, felt that particularly yesterday, we sort of played our way into the game. I know we mentioned about Mike mentioned about Tom Kearney starting, and I think he was a big part of that, just having that deep lying playmaker who can get his foot on the ball and just is comfortable receiving it in tight areas and is confident enough to play those passes and just slowly get us up the pitch rather than us having to sort of make a rash decision or just kind of give the ball away cheaply and it turn over. So while I thought we didn't start particularly greatly, we had sort of between 15 and 30 minutes. I thought we really sort of started to stamp our authority on the game, which probably leads nicely into our first goal.
I will say, though, for a team that we don't consider to be very physical, and I know that we're going to talk predominantly about Liverpool today, but I think back to the Palace game, I think we had 6 yellows compared to 0 for the other side. And I know 2 were for dissent, but at the end of the day, we get a lot of cards, and it feels like nice, friendly Fulham is starting to develop a reputation of having a little more of an edge, probably dating back to Mitrovic's time. We get a decent amount of cards.
We do. I think part of that, though, is particularly when we play against teams like Palace and West Ham, for example, we're playing higher up the pitch and these teams try and counter on us. So we commit that sort of cynical foul to stop the transition or the counter. Refs always give a booking for those. Whereas you can get, the shit kicked out of you for 90 minutes. Particularly, this used to happen a lot in the Championship. We'd get beaten up by other teams. Johansson had commit his one usual foul a game and it's straight away a yellow card. So I don't think we're a dirty team. Maybe we just kind of run our mouths a little bit too much to the referee after we've had the shit kicked out of us for 20 minutes.
I hate to tell you this, Sasha Lukic is going to be standing outside your front door after this podcast and having a word with you.
I mean, I'm not sure he'll have a word. He'll probably just kick me, but
yeah, probably. It's not a word. You're right. He's not the one committing dissent.
No, he's just the one that starts it. But yeah, you're right. We do pick up a lot of yellows, and I never think of us as a particularly dirty team as well. We do the tactical fouls, but I think, and one of them was TC taking his shirt off. So, make of that what you will. It's all right. Cody Gakpo got one of those as well, and we'll get there. But Yeah, it was a bit silly, wasn't it? But going on to the first goal, almost out of nowhere, but this is the teams that we play against that do so well against us. This is what they do. The Palaces, Forest have done it to a degree, but two quick balls. I forget. I might have been Berger, but it's a lofted ball and a roll flick on header. Which Wilson, they must have worked on that. I don't know if they have telepathy, they've worked on it on the training ground or something, but it's near perfect. And Wilson is away so quickly, his times has run so well that even he thinks he's offside. But I'm so glad that he doesn't just give up in frustration and kick it out because he launches it past Allison. That's another point I want to mention. I was so annoyed that they played Allison. I wanted Mamadashvili. I think that's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the
I was
UFC
going to say the other
fighter, right?
guy.
No, not the UFC guy. They've got a backup goalkeeper of the
Yes,
same name.
I know.
But yeah, I always feel like Allison, for me, he's one of those elite keepers. When I think maybe he's getting a little bit older now, but he's one of those ones that's like a brick wall, like prime Leno. Season 1 Leno is like pretty close to what I have as Allison in my mind, but he buries it past Allison, doesn't celebrate. And this is why I'm a big supporter of VAR. I know that we're gonna all kick off about it one way or the other, but I'm glad that got checked. And how was it watching that, Modus? So you're seeing it on the screen. Did it not look offside at all? Were you sort of like, what's going on here? That's clearly a goal. Tell me your feelings.
Immediately, it was very, very clearly he was on, and the incisive pass that cut through into Raul was a great ball. I don't know if it was Berger, if it was or not Berger, if it was Cuenca or if it was TC, but it looked like it was right straight through. That was a great ball. And then the cultured flick, and I know Raul has been getting a lot of stick recently, but I said this on the last time I was on the show. He seems to actually be finding this really interesting vein of form now, where he's now got, what is it, 2 goals and an assist in the last 4 matches. He's playing himself into things. And don't get me wrong, I get a little frustrated when he's totally out of position. I love the work rate, but Raul is not our left back. He is not our winger. This is what he does really well, is he finds a bit of space. He has a man, he knows he has a man on his back, and he takes a really deft touch to put Wilson through. And it's a great run by Wilson. Wilson's down the left and has switched sides at this point. And the finish is spectacular. It's in the corner. He has the presence of mind. I really do think about this and listening to our last show where Elton mentions that other than TC, is there anyone else who can kind of hit the ball the same way? And it is Wilson. And that is the one guy I want. He's not the paciest. He's not the trickiest, but he is incredibly direct. He has an idea of what he wants to do, and he buries that into the bottom right corner. And it was fantastic. I was actually shocked for a second that they were even reviewing it. It looked like it was so clearly on from when the ball is played. And as you said, there's some telepathy there, Mark. Wilson knows the ball is coming. Wilson times his run perfectly. A fantastic goal, and literally got me out of my seat in disbelief.
Yeah, a great moment. I mean, I was cheering as well, and then someone said the flag's up, and you believe the linesman, right? And this guy is gonna become famous. The number of flags he was lifting and the decisions he was making. But yeah,
Mark, on that though, was this VAR or was this? I've been reading a lot in the last 24 hours about semi-automated offsides, and it feels like the typical rule. And again, we'll come back onto this. Most of the time, they let the play run through, and then they put the flag up. And that's so that they can review it, as opposed to putting the flag up, that they review it doing a VAR check as opposed to putting it up on the field. And it feels like this was a bit of a different system where they were trying to put the flag up, because what happens if Wilson doesn't finish that, right? What if Wilson doesn't bury that in the corner? If Wilson hears the whistle go, just stops, and there is no completed play, we lose a one-on-one, we lose a goal. And so I thought that was a little bit of a strange way to start the game. And I'm still educating myself on VAR versus semi-automated offsides. And it seems like English semi-automated offsides is different from the rest of Europe in some capacity or another. But it was very bizarre.
Oh,
Yeah,
100%. It was.
I think so. For what happened for this goal was that Wilson did go through and score, and then the flag went up. So it wasn't like the play was still allowed to continue. Often what happens is we don't actually see them put the flag up, and then VAR interjects after we've been celebrating for about 2 minutes. So as much as it's annoying that he sort of incorrectly flagged, because like when they reviewed it, it was actually onside. I would rather that than us celebrate for 2 minutes thinking we're 1-0 up and then it get taken off. Because I don't know, you probably have the same thing in the stadium, Mark, where you think goal, oh no, wait, it's offside, and then you get to celebrate again when it's actually given. So just from a sort of a spectator point of view, I actually kind of prefer it that way rather than have you think you've got it and then it gets taken back just as everyone's about to kick off.
Well, we definitely went through a whole range of emotions. So I like that how we're debating the difference between sort of when you should feel the joy and the disappointment, and ultimately we finished on joy, which is, not what happened to the other team. But yeah, I see what you're saying. And like we said, this linesman was about to get very famous because there was all kinds of offside calls happening. Still a pretty exciting game. I would say, well, they hit the post, McAllister with a header from a corner, I believe. That he was unmarked, which was terrifying. But then so did we, jumping ahead to the second half. It's that man again, Harry Wilson, and he's popping up when we're talking about transfers and deals that might be coming up towards the end of the show. But he's just undroppable, isn't he, Trav? Like, he's doing so well. He's got that beautiful goal against Tottenham. Just, the guy's on fire. What's happened? Has he just realized that this is going to be his final big contract, so he's got to make the best of it? But can you find any rhyme, reason, explanation as to why H, as we know him, is just en fuego?
Yeah, he seems to be in the form of his life, doesn't he? I think it's the kind of thing where players peak at different times, and maybe Wilson at 28 now, I think he is kind of, he's got that maturity in his game that maybe sort of lacked, earlier in his career. He seemed to be one of those players that used to go down a little bit too easy, whereas I think he's a bit more robust now. And thankfully, touch wood, is injury free. He's always been plagued with injuries throughout his career. So we're kind of seeing it all come together, and he's just playing with so much confidence at the moment that he's trying things that he may have been afraid to try before, like that chip that hit the bar. Like, what a brilliant effort, and such a shame that it didn't go in. But we've seen him try some audacious things. I think that goal against Palace early last month was again, lovely link up with Raul in there as well. But just they seem to have a good understanding between them. That's developing quite nicely. But that's a player in confidence. But also the cynic in me is that's a player playing for a contract. So hopefully once he does put his put pen to paper, it doesn't coincide with a drop of form once he's off to the bank with his big bag of swag.
I do want to add, though, on Wilson specifically, two things. One, you saw this great stat come up. I think he has the second most goal contributions in the Premier League since November. The only guy ahead of him is some guy I haven't heard of. He plays for City. His name's Holland or something. Haaland? It's something like that. Who knows? But Wilson is in this incredible form. But Mike, you mentioned his injuries specifically, and I think we see it a lot in the States when we're listening to people talk about the NFL or the NBA, where people come back from ACL surgeries in a different amount of time, and it's getting shorter and shorter. But a lot of times people say it takes a year to year and a half for them to feel a little bit better. And when you think about the timeline, yes, he's had the little niggling injuries, but you remember when we first came up to the Premier League with Marco, he gets hurt in preseason. He tears his ACL and I believe his MCL as well. And he's out for a year. He comes back, he's on the bench. He has the renaissance, the revival, the Tyson Fury stepping up from the fire like a bat out of hell, and he hits some form, but it's still not 100% there. I think this is truly the most healthy we've seen Wilson since his first season with us in the championship, and I would like to believe, maybe this is me being a bit of an optimist, that this is the Harry Wilson that we're going to be seeing, provided he stays healthy, that he is the star player for his country right now, that he's playing in this really great form. He's the only Fulham player right now that we see any real directness from. When Chukwueze comes back, we can have that conversation separately. But he provides us something different that allows us to attack the game in a very, very different way than anyone else. And I think this is a player who not only has confidence in his form, but also confidence in his body for the first time in a decent amount of time.
100%. And 28, there's still some years left in there. We've seen wingers perform into their early 30s. So, I mean, maybe he'll drop off in pace, but we can get our very own Willian just from Wales instead. But yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful good things will continue to come, and he deserves it because he has been on the bench, and I'll hold my hands up. I was one of the people 2 years ago that said get rid. Like, we're in the Premier League now. Yes, he's all right. Maybe he's a bench player. Right now, he's undroppable, and I really, really hope he signs an extension with us. Moving on to the second goal, and giving some more background, some more context about this. I want to say our defensive line has been excellent, as in using the offside trap. We did it so many times against West Ham, and even Liverpool got caught out one. Well, I'd say once or twice, at least twice. Unfortunately, technology kind of failed us there. But it's this clever little jink. Is it Gakpo? I should really do my research. Gakpo or another player, maybe it's Soboslai, carrying, basically gets surrounded by three Fulham players, but somehow gets the ball out beneath his feet, passes it off to Verts. Modus, to you, what did you think about that move? Did you see, like we said, you were on the screen, so you saw sort of the bird's eye view. Everyone's saying the lines that, the grass is cut. That's sort of a good reference point as to whether someone's onside or not. And I'm putting my tinfoil hat on. Let's go absolutely nuts. I swear Diop's foot is in a different position in the graphic versus the picture. So in the picture, his foot is pointed towards the side of the pitch, but in the graphic, it's pointed towards goal. And I know you can mess with the frames and things like that, but what's going on there? Talk me through your emotions, your thoughts. Did you lose your head? I lost my head, but go ahead.
I guess this is directed at me. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I was so stonewall like in line that has to be offside. There is no other way. And looking at it, you start by looking at the lines, but then you think, okay, the game is later in the day in the UK. Maybe the groundskeeper had a couple adult beverages as he was drawing out the lines, and the lines aren't straight. So then you look to the penalty spot, and the penalty spot just seems totally clear that Verts is way ahead. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is so off. It's not close in the sense of how we actually describe these kinds of decisions. And when the lines came up and he calls offside, I'm like, okay, this is the third one. This happens. And then they're reviewing it, and I'm wondering what is taking so long. And I'm not my usual digs. I'm not at Old Magoon Saloon. I'm actually in North Carolina right now, and I'm at a bar, and the only other person watching the game is actually a Chelsea supporter. And he's laughing because he thinks that call was so ridiculous that we got screwed. He even admitted there might be some Big Six bias in this. And then you can see what Steve Reynolds is saying on the screen right now, that there's this 5 centimeter rule that's actually what it's going to be. To my knowledge, 5 centimeters is like an inch. You all will have to correct me if I'm wrong. We use the proper system, the standard system, not metric. But 5 centimeters is a decent margin when we're talking about them fine inches or them fine margins. That's not an insignificant amount. So yeah, I lost my head. I'm not going to lie. I'm amazed the players didn't. I'm amazed that we didn't get 7 yellows after that, or have a replay of the Mitrovic Willian moment and the Marco moment from the Man United FA Cup game all those years ago. I was stunned. I was really, really stunned.
I'm going to hold my hands up. I didn't even know that rule existed. I thought offside was offside, whether it's a millimeter or something like that. And I swear to God, next match we're going to have a new rule come out. It was like, well, if the player strikes a ball with the right or the left foot and happens to be a midfielder wearing blue, then actually those rules are... It just almost felt made up. But like, Mike, can you verify this is a real rule? Trav the Michler?
Well, I think as our American friend Mike commented on, it depends on what colour shirt and whether you're a Big Six or not. Because it's funny how this 5 centimetre rule didn't seem to exist when Chukwueze's 5 centimetres worth of toe was offside for his cross against Palace that led into the Smith Rowe goal that was then chalked off. So yeah, I think the thing that was frustrating about this as well is that the linesman actually flagged it as offside. So surely if there's any benefit of the doubt, it should stay with the on-field decision rather than reverse it. So that's another inconsistency about this. I kind of feel like, we've commented so many times about re-refereeing games. Like, they seem to be hell bent on finding a reason to either rule a goal out for us or give one to the opposition against us. With my tinfoil hat on, but it's getting quite frustrating now because we never seem to get the benefit of the doubt the other way. I think there was a thing as well where didn't they make the lines thicker or something to do with the when they used to have to basically hand draw them, and that's why VAR checks took even longer. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like they just make it up as they go along. But yeah, I don't want to get too deep into more VAR conspiracy theory
I
because we'll
just have
set
to
Mike
say
off
this.
otherwise.
I just have to say this really quickly, and I'm going to quote a very knowledgeable, unbiased person. I need to read this quote because it was read on the air for you all from a Premier League quote unquote legend, Jamie Carragher, saying, Wirtz gets his goal. He looks offsides to me. When you have the lines in the penalty spot, he definitely looks further forward. I know camera angles can fool you sometimes, but I just can't believe that it has been given. That's as unbiased of a source as I can think of.
That
When a
is a
former
damning indictment.
Liverpool player says that, yeah, Mark, to quote you, that is a damning indictment.
And just so we can see the scores, I think maybe the Barensis were on the source last night because we seem to have 2-1 when it should be 2-2. But I guess we're chalking off that questionable goal, and actually it was a Fulham victory. I wish, but we have the scores there, Verts. But speeding ahead, because we do have to get through the match and then to the Chelsea preview, as well as questions and a fun little segment we have coming up. Both teams, I wouldn't say we're huffing and puffing, but it's evenly matched. Let's be honest. Liverpool, that match, yes, they have some injuries and players out. So do we, 7 players. I wouldn't call them league champions. I wouldn't even call them top 6. I think they played like a top 8 side. They were good, they were arguably a little bit better than us, but we had some great chances as well. It was it was relatively close. But then extra time, a feeling we are all so familiar with, an attack out of nowhere, a cross that really should have been dealt with by Robbo. I know, Modus, you're going to have something to say on that because he's your favorite player. And then Anderson has a howler. I keep watching it back and I can't believe he is a good defender. And I think 19 times out of 20, he gets rid of it. It's in a dangerous area. I really would hope that he wouldn't put it out. I hope he'd have the foresight to get it over the bar or far away from goal, but it's put in a dangerous area. But I don't know if it takes an awkward bounce or something. And Cody Gakpo is the lad. He knows how to poach. He knows how to poach. So Trav, what were your thoughts when you saw that go in? Were you sort of anticipating the danger as that breakaway happened, or were you just as shocked? Because for me, I couldn't believe it. We were comfortable, in my opinion.
Yeah, it wasn't like we were getting, our goal was getting peppered and it felt like it was coming. It was a real sort of kick in the guts because it kind of came out of nowhere. Flaky Dave had sort of put it in my head earlier in the day when he sort of said, oh, they'll probably win in the last minute. And so you always have this sense of impending doom when you're playing like one of the top sides and you're sort of holding on. We'd obviously made a few changes to try and manage the game out, which I thought we'd done okay, but we are pretty threadbare. So, we, even though we had our moments going forward, it just sort of did feel a bit like if anybody was going to score, it was most likely to be Liverpool. But there's sort of like 3 half mistakes in there from us, in the sense of, we talked earlier about, our players aren't quite aggressive enough. I know it's late in the game, so you can sort of forgive Robinson for being a bit tired, but maybe he just needs to get out to Frimpong a bit quicker and make it more difficult for him to get that cross in. As much as I know you don't like us complimenting opposition players, Mark, it's a hell of a cross. It's a really dangerous ball, and it's inviting attacking players to gamble on it. I think Anderson just goes with his wrong foot. He's stretching with his right foot, which almost, that's one that can kind of ricochet into your own goal. So he's possibly got that in his mind as well. I feel like if he stretches with his left foot and he gets a comfortable cushion on it, he probably sees it away for a corner. And Castagna switches off, which is something that we know Castagna does defensively. I think Tete's a bit more diligent in kind of making sure that his marker doesn't come in on his blind side. Whereas you could see from the goal, Gakpo's already anticipating that Anderson's not going to make it. Castagne's sleeping on that, and Gakpo kind of just bundles it in and then takes his shirt off, and all the plastic scousers that were in the Liverpool end, even though they lived around the corner, were limbs. And all that stuff. So little did they know what was to come, but we might. I'll let Mike have his say on the Liverpool goal first.
Yeah, but before we get into on the Liverpool goal, and it's something that's starting to become an alarming trend for at least me, is, and you touched on it there, Mike, was specifically around our defending. And this isn't the first week that this has happened. You think back to, and I understand the circumstances around Mateta's goal for Palace. We just straight up lose Mateta. And again, the same thing seems to happen with Gakpo, that we're just not marking. I don't know if we're using a zonal marking scheme. I don't know if we are just not on top of people. I have no idea where Diop is in that play at all. But it felt like Liverpool was trying to do everything they could, especially in the back end, to exploit our right side. That trio of Diop, Castagna, and later on Adama. They had no fear of going down that side at all. I literally was thinking about this after the game. Did Diop actually complete a pass to somebody in white during the game? I think he may have slipped one into Lukic at some point, but I did not have a good time remembering that. They seem to have no concerns about that. And again, as a whole, we're just not good at staying with the strikers. And it doesn't matter if it's a big lug of a man, or if it's somebody a little slighter and quicker like Gakpo, that we're just not doing it. And then when Gakpo takes his shirt off and celebrates, I'm falling out of my seat. I'm devastated. I'm depressed. It's a horrible, horrible way to end the game, and it's something we should come to expect at a certain point. But that's just such a switch turning off for just half a second. And that happens. And yes, Anderson probably should do a little better. Yes, Leno should probably, play that ball with a little more anticipation. Yes, Jedi for the second week in a row feels like gets skinned a little bit there. But I can't look past the defending on our right side and not understanding how no one is marking him straight up out of that and just getting that out being goal side.
Yeah, very fair. I mean, he is a good poacher and he plays for Liverpool, but yeah, I think all those points make a lot of sense. But I do want to mention one thing I saw, which really, because I was devastated. The stadium was devastated. Most of the Fulham team were pretty devastated, to use the same word 3 times. But one man I want to mention when I looked up, and this is why I want to keep him. And we've talked about this, and we should do a poll in our Discord. Shout out to the Discord, join. It's a great place to meet like-minded Fulham people who enjoy banter. But a name I want to mention, so motivational, Jorge Cuenca. I don't know if they have a clip of it. They score. Everyone's pissed off. Everyone's gloom and doom. He's shouting to his Fulham teammates, we still got to play. He's raising his hands up. And you know what? That cheered me up as well. That motivated me. And I was like, well, I turned to my dad. He's next to me. He's bummed out as well, right? I'm like, it's not over. It's probably almost over. There's still 2-3 minutes. Let's see what we can do. And then the man of the hour, Harrison Reed, the little engine that could. I don't know how he does it, but he comes on. We know he's a fighter. We know this guy is scrappy. We can have compunctions about his ability at this level. We can have compunctions about his vertically challenged nature, but he will fight, and he will keep fighting. And my God, when Kevin got that first assist, skillfully passed straight into the feet of Reedy, and Reedy takes the swing. Walk me through it, Modus.
First of all, I think we have to compare 2 of the top 3 goals of the season have had 2 of the top 3 assists as well. Because when I think about Wilson's goal versus Tottenham, that pass from Josh King into Wilson, just piece of art, like same way, just inch perfect. In all seriousness, I loved the motivation. I love that we were pressing. We weren't kind of, heads down. We get this thrown into the corner, and Kevin sees a pass. And to his credit, by the way, we've talked a lot about Kevin running hot and cold. That's where you think our record signing might try to take on one too many guys and lose the ball at the end of the game, and they just hoof it out. He tries to recycle the ball. He looks to Reed, and my first reaction was, okay, Reed's going to do that back post little, touched ball in, maybe Kusiasari's on the back post, maybe Anderson or Diop's up, and we're going to get a header on the back post. And he leathers it. I mean, he absolutely leathers it. I've heard people call it a postage stamp. That did not require postage. That's hand delivered by a courier. I mean, that was as perfect as it gets. It makes Allison candidly look ordinary. It was a fantastic strike. The reaction was lovely. I know we've had these conversations where we're talking about Reed and Tom Kearney and all these players who were with us from the championship seasons up. And it just goes to show you how important these players are to the squad. I know we talk about, should we be hanging on to these people or selling them on for real value? But you can see it from everybody, whether it's during the match and Robinson trying to run around after him, Cuenca trying to run around after him to celebrate, or Tom Kearney, that clip going viral, asking where the fuck did that come from? It shows how tight-knit this squad is and how everybody's playing for each other. And it really does put into perspective Reed's role within the team, because he comes in, leathers it. We've also seen that clip of Iwobi describing to Chukwueze and Chukwueze calling Reed my boy. Like, everybody is so bought in and everybody's so happy for Reed in that. Like, it's a fantastic strike. I don't know if he does it again. I don't know if he does it again if you give him 300 chances, but that one chance is what we needed. He took it. And I when I buy a house, I'm going to make sure I get at least a 2, maybe 3 car garage, and just keep a Ford Fiesta in there for our Ginger Iniesta, because that's just got to sit in there in perpetuity.
Love that. Love that. And Trav, your feelings, emotions, state of mind as it ballooned the net?
I mean, it's such an incredible strike. You don't see them like that very often. Like, we know people can shoot from distance, but like, to get it that perfectly in, like, it's probably the only place that he can score and, beat a goalkeeper of Allison's caliber with. It just perfectly kisses the crossbar on its way in. It wobbles a bit in the air, so you're not quite sure. I have the vantage point sitting in the Hammersmith end in sort of that corner, if you like. So it's coming towards me in that way, and it was just an unbelievable strike. Like, it kind of just dips right at the last to sort of drop into the goal. And I mean, fair play to Harrison Reed. If he ever hits one anywhere good as that again in his life, then it'll be remarkable, because that was such an incredible goal. Words don't do it justice. I think the next time he's on the pitch, whether that's Wednesday or Saturday in the Cup, the whole crowd are going to shout shoot wherever he gets the ball for his first touch, because it's one of those things where it's just like, it's something that we're going to watch back for years afterwards. It'll be remembered. It's a real moment in time where it will be fondly remembered by all Fulham fans for years to come. And as Mike touched on, he's one of the stalwarts of the club who hasn't quite had his, moment. Like, Kearney, Sessegnon, Wilson, guys like that who have been with us for a long time. They've had those sort of moments where, the fans revere them and they get that sort of standing ovation and applause and get to lap it up a bit. I really am pleased that Harrison Reed is going to be able to finish his Fulham career, whenever it finishes, with that sort of, trademark kind of moment, if you like, as in, that's what he'll be remembered for as his kind of finest hour. He's been an excellent player for us over the years, but it's really nice to just have that sort of standout moment. I'm trying to think back as to like goals as good of that caliber, that we've seen. Maybe probably have to go all the way back to Clint Dempsey's chip against Juventus for something like that at the Hammersmith end. But I think, I see there's a shout, Joe Bryan's free kick in the playoffs against Brentford. That's another one. I think Jean-Michel Seri hit something like that as well. But those.
How about Sherla, maybe?
Yeah, possibly. But I'd say the only one that matches it in terms of its kind of, how it felt in the ground was probably the Dempsey one, in terms of the kind of hysteria. Because you just, as I say, we just don't see those ones, particularly right at the last knockings of a game that we thought was gone. To all intents and purposes, a lot of people had thought it was over. I even saw some people leave. I'm going to say it again. Stop walking out on this team when we go behind. Things like this happen. So like, how many more times do I need to say it? So I don't want to labour the point too much, because I think those people will probably feel pretty stupid about missing one of the great goals that you'll see. They could have seen it live. They didn't, because they decided to leave. So I won't harp on too much about that till next time. But yeah, just like, so pleased for him, and pleased for us as well, because we deserve something from the game. It was, it was a decent performance overall, and it's nice to be rewarded with a real sort of special moment that we'll remember for years to come.
So, Mark, I have to ask. I have two questions for you. One is, considering I wasn't able to attend the game. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a far commute for just one match, and I get frowned at, looks, potentially thrown out of the bar if I take my shirt off in the bar. But is that the moment where you guys? I know it's cold in England right now, but like, tops had to have come off, right? Like, if you're not going to celebrate that one, like, come on, Mark. Like, I can see you pulling off the kit and swinging it around and going crazy. No?
I don't think even my wife definitely doesn't want to see me take my shirt off, so it's just gonna be like the skinny chest of like an 8-year-old Asian boy. So that's probably grounds for getting arrested if anyone views that as well. But no, it was a wild moment, and I think you're right. It's because the stakes were that high, and it was so justified. It felt so cruel to have played Liverpool pretty much as an equal most of the game, almost to have gone 2-0 up with the Wilson crossbar challenge, and then to have that snatched away. But unfortunately, no, I did not strip in public.
I was thinking about this though, and we didn't touch enough, by the way, on that Wilson chance. More great work by Jimenez there to make sure that there was actually an opportunity to even make a play. That rolls a different way; it potentially goes in. But I was thinking about our top goals of the season, and I came down to 6 that I really thought were like our top goals of the season. Shout out to Jimenez. Actually, is a really nice goal that he has against Aston Villa before he gets hurt. I don't want to think about that game ever again. When I was thinking about the best goals of the season, obviously King versus Chelsea, elite goal, and we all have some context there. Kearney versus Palace is up there for me. I'm sentimental. I thought that was great. But when I actually think about the top 4 goals of the season, I don't think we talk enough about King in the Cup with that little kind of scorpion kick finish. I think was fantastic. I think about, obviously, Wilson owns 2 out of the top 3 in my mind, because I think this is either 1 or 2 if you take emotion context out of it. I think Wilson against Tottenham for the second goal is a phenomenal finish. And it's just, I kind of led into that these two are a little bit connected here. But the other one that I think goes under the radar, again, for the sake of the result, is Wilson versus Palace. Is just this phenomenally well-worked goal in there with him and Jimenez and that incredible finish. I feel like on emotion, with context, everything involved, this clearly is goal of the season. But out of skill, it's up there. It's definitely up there. I mean, again, we're running through, and I've learned that Mike does not violate COVID protocol and did not sneak into the ground for the Joe Bryan goal. So the first one, not the second. But yeah, I'm curious if you all had thought about any of the other goals of the season and kind of said, yeah, this is where that stacks up in the hierarchy.
I think just with this one, because of the occasion of it, as in it's in the last minute, it gets us a result, and the emotion around it is probably what just kind of takes it above, even though some of those other ones are technically brilliant. This one is technically brilliant and just has the moment on top of it as well. One other thing I just want to touch on with this goal and how it comes about, which is hilarious, is that Gakpo, after scoring and finally getting his shirt back on, then gets substituted for Joe Gomez. And he's such a smug bastard when he's going off, as in he tries to run the clock down. He wants to shake hands with the referee and trudge off. Gomez comes on, goes straight into the box. Gakpo probably would have been around the edge of the box if he'd have stayed on the pitch. There's nobody closing Reed down. That's why he takes the shot on. So brilliant tactical substitution there, Mr. Slot. Thank you very much for that. And kudos to Harrison Reed for taking the shot on. It's funny what happens when you shoot from outside the box. Sometimes it can go in.
Harry Wilson's been teaching the squad well.
Yep.
Very much so. So,
hey, Mark, before we move on to the preview, though, I need to take a second and right a wrong. I'm sorry. I know that we have an agenda, we have time. I need to right one wrong. If you'll give me like 30 seconds, because
please,
there was a wrong done on the previous podcast that we need to address right now that we have not spoken enough about, which is, and I've alluded to it before, the resurgence of Tom Kearney. Skibby somehow went the entire last podcast without giving the man his flowers. And the strike against Palace was fantastic. It was exciting. I've watched that on video way too many times. He came in and absolutely bossed it. Like, absolutely bossed the midfield. He was completing passes. He was making tackles. He was getting himself in and around it every single time. And I think and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong or when I'm wrong here, he played 70 minutes. Like, I'm not saying he's going to play every minute of every game for us, but Elton mentioned it in the last pod. I mentioned it earlier as well. Kearney offers us something different with the incisive passing, with the ability to just keep the ball and allow us to dictate the tempo that we really did not touch on. He just gives us something different. And I know he's only got one more year, and I know we go on about this every year. We need to do this again. Like, he's such a valuable option, and I don't want him to be the first center mid off the bench, but he needs to be a resource, something that Marco can pull out of his hat or his Batman utility belt to give us just a different look, because there aren't a lot of players who can do what he did in that match or in the Palace match. All right, I'll get off my soapbox now.
All right. And 46 minutes and 6 seconds later, the Chelsea preview. Brilliant. Oh, okay, there we go. The boys in blue. We have a quick turnaround. They're coming back to the cottage. Was it today or yesterday? Today? They got rid of their manager, Maresca, just because, I guess, he wanted to pick his own players. And Todd Bowley and Silver Lake Capital were not having any of it, which led to a very weird discussion at work, whether a manager should just pick their players, which I'm almost certain they should. But anyway, managerless, Rossinier very much touted to come in. I think it's pretty much just a formality now for him to sort of do the press release and say his goodbyes at Strasbourg. But how are we feeling? Chelsea, they've done well without being outstanding, I'd say. Now, that's maybe a bit rich coming from a Fulham fan. They look at where they are versus look at where we are. But the amount of money they spend, and they do have some good players there. But I think, well, maybe it's you, Trav, who said this, but they are a little bit shaky at the back. So maybe there's something there. This is one, unfortunately, I won't be able to attend because, pregnant wife, work, and other obligations. But Mike, are you going to be there? And are you expecting a result? Trav, that is.
Yes, I will be there. No, I'm not expecting a result because we have a horrible record against Chelsea, and they seem to be quite jammy against us. I think as well that while Chelsea do have this sort of vulnerability about them at times, I think we saw them get beat at Leeds quite recently where they just didn't show up. They annoyingly seem to take us seriously as like, even though they're a better side than us, they know because it's a local derby and so on and so forth, they kind of seem to be switched on when they play against us. So I think that they also as well, I was looking through their sort of list of players and they must have the most dislikable squad in the entire league in terms of just arseholes, like whiny little bitch arsehole players. Like, there's so many of them. Cucurella, Enzo Fernandez, João Pedro, Gusto, Caicedo, Tosin, of course, who we know quite well, and probably wouldn't have put him in that bracket before. Pedro Neto as well, who I think Gentleman Jim nearly described quite adequately before he cut himself off in that game where we famously won at the Bridge last year. But they've just got so many players that you just don't like, but you know that they'll turn up, they'll be aggressive, they'll be, they'll use all the dark arts or whatever, and they have got quality, and they have so much depth to their squad. Where they're vulnerable is at centre back and goalkeeper. They seem to sort of lack a bit of nous and experience there. So I feel like we'll be able to sort of, if we can muster the energy from, the pretty threadbare squad that we've got and have a go at them, we might be able to cause them real problems. I could potentially see us playing the same lineup and the same system that we did against Liverpool. Be interested to see what Chelsea do, because Rossinier at Strasbourg, presuming that he'll be in charge by the time the game comes around. At Strasbourg, he played with a back three. and they play in a particular style. Like they like to use their goalkeeper almost like as a sweeper keeper, but like as almost like as an extra defender, as a playmaker. And the amount of times they've nearly been caught out with giving the ball away and then the keeper getting lobbed. I'd like to see that be something that we could try and catch them out with, especially if someone like Harry Wilson's got his shooting boots on. But it might just be too early for them to make any sort of drastic sort of tactical switches. So I'd probably expect that Caicedo comes back into that midfield. It's a really difficult game for us because we just don't have any bodies. Like looking at the bench on Sunday, it didn't really feel like we had too much to bring on. I mean, obviously, aside from Ginger Iniesta himself, who might have to repeat that feat if we're going to get a result. I think Kevin was our only real viable option in terms of attacking. I know Kusiaseri and Traore both came on, but they're not really players that you would really be, put in all your money on to try and get us a goal if we need it. So. If we can just dig deep, one more time and try and get a positive result, I think hopefully our momentum and our recent run can kind of give us the impetus to go and do something positive. But I'm not that confident just because we always lose to those bastards.
Modus, any players you're looking out for from Chelsea? Because they are stacked. And before you said it, Trav, you're completely right. They are dislikable. I don't like Gusto. I don't like Cucurella. Neto did that weird thing where he tried to foul Iwobi and then clutched his face as he failed to foul our player. Like, horrible player. But who should we be looking out for, Modus?
You all have missed the probably most dislikable player, second most dislikable after Tosin on Chelsea. Garnacho's on that team.
Yeah, he's another one. Yeah,
he's another one who's caused us heartbreak in the past playing for United. I mean, that's a guy I don't want to see, candidly. Look, I think the one thing that I am looking forward to in this match is hopefully the vibes are good. People are excited. We heard from Marco, and his pre-match presser has not come out yet, but that Cess is on the way back. I would love to have Cess as an option off the bench. But look, at the end of the day, St. Muniz Day, I'm pretty sure occurred when we were playing five at the back. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it again. I wouldn't be upset about it either. Maybe this isn't the game for TC to start, as great as I thought as he looked. You think about a very industrious midfield of Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo, that maybe we go back to the shield of Berger and Lukic in there. And especially with the games coming thick and fast, we focus more on kind of TC rotating out for this game and being an option off the bench. If there's a change we make, I think that's probably it. I actually thought Kevin looked lively again when he came off the bench, and that he was really excited. I actually almost thought he over celebrated and may have injured himself on the Reed goal. But I think that's the lineup I want to see. I want to see no changes other than potentially Berger in for Kearney, which I can't believe I'm saying. I wish we had another option other than Issa Diop, but we don't. I wish Kenny Tete was back, but that's not the world we live in. Maybe he's back and we get a surprise. I think the one thing we think about Chelsea, though, and again, I mentioned this earlier, we are just not good at tracking strikers right now. And João Pedro really does freak me out. I just feel like he is going to do something dumb again, where they are going to get another stupid penalty for something stupid. And João Pedro's smug face is going to be anywhere. So unfortunately, that is the thing imprinted in my mind right now. But I really do think that this is, we've had this run of results. I think are we 5 or 6 unbeaten now? I think it's 5. It's 5 in the league. I would love to see us carry on that momentum, keep that steely grit that we've been doing, and kind of try to grind one more of these out. It's going to be tough with the talent that Chelsea has, but hopefully, we've got a little pep in our step, and that's the big change.
Yeah, fair enough, guys. And can I press you all very quickly for a prediction before we jump to our final segment?
I hate predictions because I always get them wrong, and I think we'll lose 2-1.
Oof.
Yeah, I kind of just feel like how much gas have we got in the tank to really go again, and you know, if it's not going well for them, they'll make 5 changes and bring on equal quality, and it's just a world that we can't live in. But yeah, I don't know. I know that's pessimistic, but yeah, maybe I'm just sort of, you know, protecting my emotions for for to Wednesday night, because yeah, I don't want to get my hopes up and then have my soul destroying defeat.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I mean,
Modus?
uh, I always want to be optimist. I don't want to put anything negative out there. I feel like this is going to be a really hard-earned 1-1 draw. I think Chelsea is in a really weird place. I don't even know who their caretaker manager is going to be for the moment. So I think we have the opportunity to hit them at a weird time that, we don't know who the voice in the dressing room is going to be. My gut says it's Harry Wilson for us, but I would love to see Harry Wilson assist Kevin and kind of get Kevin off the mark. Maybe it's Cesc
Yep.
coming off the bench if he's healthy. And again, that stupid face of Joao Pedro is the one that's in my head right now, getting something from Garnacho maybe. I want to remain optimistic, though. I think we have a chance.
I'm hoping that your scoreline is correct, Mike, and I'm
I'm
hoping.
not. I'm hoping it's closer than yours. I'm
Actually,
hoping
you
it's
know
a
what?
1-0.
Yeah, let's go for that. We'll have a 2-1 win, and we'll have a tossing own goal in the last minute is our winner. That would be ideal. That
means he has to make it on the field, though, and I don't know if he's actually going to make it on.
Probably not, because he left us to go and be, the water boy at Chelsea. So, and then he switched his international allegiance to play for Nigeria and didn't even get a call up for the Nigeria squad. So fuck off, tossing.
I bet you the Fulham players were in the Nigerian manager's ear and just said, no,
Yeah.
no.
This guy's
no.
Yeah, this guy's no good. Cut.
I know you had John Obi Mikel. I know you had Ola Aina, and there are some, former Nigerian players from Chelsea. No, we're not doing this.
This pod is definitely not getting monetized the number of times we've thrown out certain words, but yes, very true, very true. I'm gonna go with a hopeful 1-1. I just can't see us keeping a clean sheet. Like, it irks me to this day, but we just can't. But I'm hoping someone sort of breaks their duck. I'm hoping it's either Kevin or Kusi Asari. We'll see. But for our final segment, I don't know if you guys saw this, but it's quite interesting. It's the mid-season Premier League report cards that we have up from The Athletic, starting at the top with a very fictional A*, which I've never seen or gotten in my life. And if you see right at the bottom, it might be blocked out. I guess it's not blocked out for you guys, but from my end it is. There's an F-, which is incredible. You've somehow done worse than a fail. So I don't even know how you achieved that. But I wanted to start, it's a Fulham pod, so we got to talk about Fulham. Fulham is a C+, and while we're discussing that, guys, pick one or two teams that you think either make sense or completely don't make any sense at all. But Fulham with a C+. Trav, is that fair? I feel that's a little bit harsh. I think C+ is very middling.
I think until the last couple of weeks, you'd probably say, okay, that's about fair. But the fact that we're on as Mike said, 5-game unbeaten run, we've got those results and pushed up the table now. I think a B would have been more fair for us, considering it's not exactly like we brought in a load of new signings or anything. We're basically working off a pretty scratch squad at the moment. So, yeah, a little bit harsh, but I always feel like with things like, the bigger publications and the biggest, broadcasters, we're such an afterthought that they just go, that'll do for Fulham. So, yeah, I wouldn't read too much into it.
I mean, when I look at the actual Premier League table, we are equal on points with Everton and Brighton. We're saddled right in the middle on goal difference. I don't understand how we don't have the same grade. I guess we had this big thing in the U.S. in the mid 2000s of No Child Left Behind, and it seems like somebody was left behind from the Athletic. It was not good. I'm very surprised by this. And candidly, you told us to pick one or two to pick on. I don't know what this is based on. Like, if it's based off transfer signings, we should be an F, probably. Like, we should be so much lower. If it's based on where we are versus expectations in the table, I don't fully understand this, candidly. Leeds is sitting in 16th and is an A-. Like, that's insane to me. Because, yes, they're not in the relegation zone, but if this is based off expectations, then Burnley should be a C. Fine. Like, we expected them to get relegated. So I'm a little surprised there. And the other one that really surprises me is how is Man United a B minus? They're not even in the Champions League spots. I mean, I think this is pretty remarkably strange and kind of haphazard. I don't really see it. So yeah,
But Mike, bear in mind, Man United did only spend 200 million this
you're
summer,
right.
rather than their usual 500
They held
million.
back.
And completely unregulated as well. Apparently, FFP or whatever, PSR doesn't seem to apply to them because But yeah, and also if you're the only team this season that's played Wolves at home and not beaten them, B minus is not what you're getting graded as. You should be significantly lower than that. But hey, it's almost as if the Athletic have a whole bunch of journalists dedicated to Man United who are very much apologists for some tepid performances. But I don't want to go too
I know this probably came out before the last match, but Palace is behind us in the table. They're in Europe. How are they an A minus? Like, I
that's
feel
what
like
I wanted to mention.
the wheel.
I also, yes, 100%. Palace being behind us in an A minus. I mean, I know Eze was important, but guys, they kept the person that's even more important than Eze, which is Glasner. They also kept Gahey and Munoz. They basically kept their entire team minus Eze, who I get it. He was a talisman. He was amazing. But, like, come on. You still have 10 other players, at least 6 or 7 of which are of a pretty high and impressive standard. And also, Arsenal getting an A cracks me up. They're literally top of the league. Like, what do you need to do to be top of this table?
I mean, we can pick holes in all of it, Mark, but I think Liverpool on a C as well is pretty generous considering they're the defending champions and they look nowhere near defending that title, having spent 400 million in the summer, was it? So, but yeah, again, lots of Liverpool journalists write for the Athletic as well. So, yeah.
In all seriousness, is
pinch
F
of salt
minus an actual grade? Because I've never seen that anywhere.
I think in the UK it would probably be a U, which counts for ungraded. So that's when you've basically
it should
not
just
even
be
managed to
P.
spell your
No,
name.
we're going to change it. For Wolves, can you actually connect the lines? It's now a P for pathetic. And watch that be clipped.
We skipped a whole bunch of letters there.
That's gonna be clipped when we ultimately lose to Wolves somehow.
But
yeah. It's pathetic. Like,
leave Wolves alone. We don't want to lose to Wolves late in the season, so let's leave them alone and be nice to them for now.
Fair enough. Well, that's about it, guys. Any final thoughts on the grades, Chelsea, Liverpool, or anything we want to get off our chest before we wish our lovely audience goodbye?
I have to. One last thing I want to bring up, and I know we're over time. This weird carousel of managers in the Premier League right now. Enzo Maresca out. Ruben Amorim out. Reports of Arne Slot is going to be out by the end of the week. What is going on here? And also, with a Fulham bend on this, I'm not going to lie, I'm scared now about Marco. I'm really, really scared. Losing him at this point would make me nervous for the rest of the season because it feels like we're doing just enough to do something potentially special. And I don't know what we do to keep him.
I think that's a great discussion point. I mean, there are 2 schools of thought on this, right? With what I'm about to mention, and it's that he has a 12 million reported release clause. I don't think that stops someone who wants him. I don't think that even stops a Marinakis if he really wants him. So is it amount of money that teams don't want to pay? Probably. But if you're a club of United stature, this is an afterthought, given what they spend in a window. But we'll see. You'll see we do have Silva and Wilson up. Silva, definitely. We did hear something. I don't know if it was from Jack Kelly or FFN or one of the other
It was
members
Francis.
of our Discord. Oh, it was Francis.
Francis popped back up on on Harry.
Okay, that's good. Well, that's exciting. For
Jack
those
Kelly
of you who don't know, Francis, Francis does appear to be Tony Khan or Tony Khan's closest associate's burner Twitter handle. But Francis reportedly says things are going to be wrapped up with Wilson with an extension by the end of the window. So let's see. Francis has been right before. We do follow Francis and we love and respect Francis. So we'll see what happens there. But Silva as well. We're in a tricky place, aren't we, Trav? We want that extension, or at least I want that extension. I'm pretty sure you do too. But
Yeah,
Francis needs to come good.
yeah. I know. I want Silver to stay as well, and I think he will. I kind of feel like United and Chelsea aren't really fishing in that pond at the moment. I don't think somebody who's been good at a mid-table club is the kind of manager that they'll probably be looking for next. I don't think it's one that their fan bases would particularly accept either, particularly Man United. I think they'll want a big name who is going to, make good on the caliber of players that they've got. And, you know, I just don't think it would be the right fit for Silva. Silva as well, if he's not enjoyed working with the Khans, he's not going to enjoy going to, work for Ratcliffe or, Blueco or whoever who will give him even less say on transfers. So I think he'd be wise to stay at Fulham and hopefully steer us to greater things.
While the bookies do not have him in the top three, I think Glasner is one of the top ones. FFN said right before we hopped on that he is one of the three being discussed, which scares me. The other two are Andoni Iraola and Francesco Ferrioli from Porto. So I'm a little scared, especially since our second choice is now going to Chelsea. I'm going to be nervous. I'm going to be biting my nails all week.
All right. And I guess we're going to end it there. Thanks so much for joining me. Trav the Michler, Mike the Traveler. Always appreciate your wisdom and your insight. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mark.
And Modus, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you being here as well. Please don't kidnap me. I did my best as host.
Absolute pleasure. I don't think I have that amount of power, and I wasn't sure if that was going to be too soon.
Very much. All right. And we'll see us off with a You Whites.